Aion Classic, what class should you choose? I am sure that most of you have this question on your mind because I had it back in the day when the game first launched, and even now that I have already tried all the classes, it took me some time to decide what class to play eventually. I will try to give you a picture of each class and what is most likely for you to like that corresponds to your playstyle and needs. Before we start, I would kindly ask you, if you like the content, to consider subscribing to the channel to get notified when a new video comes up and help me on my journey. Also, I would like to announce that I have launched a Discord server where you can hop in and have a chat about MMORPGs and the gaming world overall. My goal is to build a healthy community where we will speak about MMORPGs and other games without restriction. If you like the idea, I will leave the link below. I would like to let you know beforehand that most of the classes in Aion Classic to excel need gear, with some small exceptions. But of course, with the best gear for our class, we can achieve the greatest possible results. Let's start with warriors. We have Templars and Gladiators in this category. Templars are the main tank of the game. For weapons, they can use the sword and mace in conjunction with the shield, and you can also find them wielding great swords. They are plate armor users. You might think that because it's the main tank, it won't have much damage output, but with the right gear, they can deal a very good amount of damage as well, but this depends a lot on their setup. They are needed in both PvE and PvP. PvE is primarily used for tanking, while PvP is used for CC, support, and tanking. They are very good in one-on-one situations. They can defeat almost any class. If you generally like tanking, this is the class for you, but be ready to struggle a bit until you get your gear right, at least for PvP. Most hard matchups are against Sorcerers, Spiritmasters, and Clerics. Gladiators are also plate armor users, but they can also wear other types of armor with different stat bonuses. Their skill kit comes with many AoE skills, and their most used weapons are the Great Sword and Polearm, but they can use a series of other weapons too with dual wielding bonuses. Gladiators are very good, and they are needed in both PvE and PvP because of their high DPS output and AoE skills. Also, Gladiators can off-tank if needed. In PvP, they have very good results versus all classes except Mages and Spiritmasters, which are the classes that counter them. Of course, Clerics are another class that most Gladiators have trouble with, but Clerics are their own category, and we will discuss that later. They are a very gear-dependent class, and you will face a lot of challenges until you are geared up, so get ready to feel a bit off until you get your gear. The next category is Scouts, which are glass cannon physical damage DPS classes, and let's start with the melee version of them, Assassins. When you look DPS meters, you can always find Assassin at the top spots because they deal an insane amount of damage with the most burst potential in the game. They are dual wielding, with a combination of swords and daggers, and they are leather armor users. They are needed in both PvE and PvP because of their burst and insane damage output. In 1 vs 1, they are very good versus all classes, but they have problems with the Templars and Gladiators because if they survive their burst, it's really hard to bring them down. The specialty of Assassins is to sneak up on their enemies with stealth and kill them in a matter of seconds. Of course, as a DPS class, they lack sustain and survivability, but even if they don't have the best gear, they can still bring very good damage to the table. After we have the Ranger, which is your typical bow-ranged user that can bring a very good amount of damage output. They are also wearing leather armor. They are considered to be the squeeziest class, and they can die really fast, like your typical ranged DPS. In both PvE and PvP, they are needed as very good physical damage dealers. They have problems in PvP with Gladiators and Templars, as Assassins do. One thing that you must keep in mind with Rangers is that you must learn to use your skills in conjunction with jumping to be very good at PvP, or, in other words, to learn how to animation cancel your attacks. They can deal very good burst damage too, but most of the time they use traps to help them. They can also bring good results without the best gear, but keep in mind that Rangers, even if they have the best gear, still die pretty fast. Mage is the next category, so let's start with Sorcerers. As in most of the games, sorcerers are glass cannon magic users that use cloth as armor and a spell book or orb as their weapon. They bring tons of damage with low survivability, of course. They are highly needed in both PvE and PvP due to their damage and crowd control skills. In 1v1, they excel against the Templars and Gladiators, but they have problems with leather users, especially Assassins. They are not that gear dependent, and they can deal good damage even with average gear. Together with Spiritmasters, they are the first targets in PvP because of their damage and CC. Sorcerers are pretty straightforward to pick up and, generally, a very good class to play. Most of the time, you can find them at the top of the charts. Spiritmasters are the most insane class for me. They deal strong damage over time with curses, and they also use spirit to help them. They use cloth armor, and they use the same weapons as sorcerers, such as a spell book or orb. They are needed in both PvE and PvP, especially. In PvP, they are the top class for me because they can defeat any other class if they play well. They excel at debuffs, and their main CC is fear, which makes them the class you must fear in PvP, especially in 1 vs 1. They can get away with average gear and make the lives of others miserable because they also have the ability to remove buffs. Because they have such strong skills, Spiritmasters are most often targeted first in mass PvP situations. Very good PvP class, but they have high scaling to master them, and it will take some time before you really become good. Last we have priests, and let's start with clerics, who are the main healers of the game and can also deal good damage if they set up their gear for it, and still they will have good healing output. They use a mace for a weapon and wear chain armor. Of course, they are needed in both PvE and PvP for the obvious reason of healing and supporting. In 1v1, clerics are one of the best classes because they have insane sustain and can easily outscale and starve their opponents. As the main healer, you will have a big burden on your shoulders, so be prepared to face some challenges with other players crying to you if they die, as in most of these types of MMORPGs that use the Holy Trinity system. Pretty straightforward class. If you like healing, be independent, don't not care about others blaming you, and outscale your opponents in 1 vs 1. Cleric is a class for you. We have one more class to talk about, and I left it last for a reason. It is the class I played when I started the game. Chanters are a unique support class for close range that uses a staff as a weapon and wears chain armor. They are average on damage output, but they are needed in both PvE and PvP because they have really good buffs that help the party generally with anything. They are highly gear dependent, and you need to have patience until you get your gear to a good level to see results. They are among the top 1 vs 1 classes, but they have a high scale, and you need to really know what you are doing to excel. For some people, they might be boring because they don't have many damage skills, but this is of course logical because they are priests, and that's not the main thing in which they excel. A very well-rounded class that can bring something different to your gameplay by combining supporting and damaging abilities. If you like the idea of being needed in every party and being really good in 1v1 situations, Chanter might be the right class for you. Now that we have covered all the classes, I want to say that in Aion Classic, the overall balance of the classes is good. If I had to give the edge to some of them, those would be Sorcerers, Spiritmasters, and Gladiators. Sorcerer and Gladiator are most of the time the most represented classes on Abyss Points charts. Because the game's PvP battles depend on flying and open-world skirmishes, ranged classes have the edge over melee ones, and they are easier to perform most of the time. Be ready to change classes if you feel like it, because for most of us, we will end up changing classes to find what works best for us, and that's a really good way to have a better understanding of how the classes work in PvP as well. The most important thing is to enjoy your class and have fun with it because the playstyle dictates the gameplay, and it's very crucial to find the best fit for you. If you are still here, thank you very much, and I really hope I helped you choose the class that you think will work best for you, or at least give you a better idea of how to choose it. If you like the content, give it a like and subscribe with the bell activated to get notifications when a new video comes. See you very soon in the next one.